I'm Emily. I would love to share with you my app Same Page Time Tracker. It's an all-in-one PTO management system created during a 10-day sprint during my devCodeCamp Capstone project time. To start off, I want to share just a little bit about myself. I am a new software engineer, but I'm an old analog to digital interactive media and performance artist, and I've also taught creative coding at NYC middle schools. Some of the work I've done as an artist include this video game called Looking Glass. It had video content inside which you would watch as the player. Please feel free to check it out. It's a WebGL game made from Unity. It's still hosted. And I've also done Max MSP, or more specifically Jitter projects, such as the one you see there. That's actually a portrait of my grandmother that I decomposed and was stitching back together as people spoke into a microphone and cued the pixels, like the rate at which they would be reassembled. So it was really fun, and sort of what got me into the idea that maybe I would be interested in tech, teaching, and then continuing to learn as well. As a teacher, some of the work I did was to pioneer this unit called Ready Set Code, where this is the final project, but during the summer I taught students how to make the first level of this game. First off, please don't judge me too harshly. I'm not like a Twitch. I see, I've already died. But hopefully you get the idea. It was long enough to understand the dynamics. Every student got to make their own version of this game, and I made everybody their own individualized QR code pins that they could put on their jacket or their backpack, and then scan it, because it's mobilely compatible, so you can play on your phone and share with your family. And I thought that was a really worthwhile thing to spend a little bit of company money on, was sharing that achievement with people's families. So that's something I've done for myself and something I've done as a teacher, but what about this project? So for the 14-week full stack development camp, they wanted us to do a 10-day sprint as our capstone. And I wanted to address a real-world problem. So I went to my friend who's a project manager at a huge real estate corporation, and I asked her, "Friend, what do you need? What is missing in your life? What is giving you the most headaches that could be avoided if you just had something automated or something simple to help you?" And she said, "PTO is really difficult to track. It's time consuming and it's tedious." So I said, I can fix that. And I made this Same Page Time Tracker app to address these concerns, that PTO is different in different regions of the same company. Your tenure rates affect your accrual rate. Your hire date affects the pattern at which you're compensated with this new PTO. And beyond that, if you're getting emails as the manager, they don't necessarily have all the data they're required to have. They might have too much information sometimes. So I wanted to make something standardized that would give everybody the same access and simplicity to apply and to receive those notifications as a manager. Also, of course, if you lose track and over allow, you'll be understaffed, which is, no manager's dream. But also, I found this stat that 55% of Americans don't use all their paid time off. So there's concerns on the employee side as well that could be addressed with a simple platform. Same Page Time Tracker is built on a stack of Django and SQL as the database management system. They handle the users, the requests, the messages, the PTO allowance tiers, and then React provides the front end to display the content and let the users interface with the work. I used Material UI's library for some of the styling. I used JWTs to manage authentication so that users had to be logged in to see any data. And then if you're an employee, you would be logged in to see only your data. If you're a manager, you see only the employee data that's been provided to you by the employee, and all of their content about themselves as like a worker. I'll show you in just a second what I mean by that. Hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense. Postman, ace for testing, amazing, super useful. Fullcounter.io is the calendar that I use to display, and I'll show you that in a minute as well. I really enjoyed working with that API though, once I got used to it. So to show you some of the features, let's walk through. This is the app. This is Same Page Time Tracker, localhost 3000, wonderful website. And this is our landing page. We can log in, we can click to register, super simple, streamlined. Let's log in first as an employee. And today I'm going to be JC Calhoun. His password is something like that. Yes. Okay, great. I have so many employees at this point, and I know them all so very well, so it's difficult to manage the passwords on occasion, but we did it. Okay, so this is an empty homepage for an employee. You can see the request button, the empty inbox, the empty calendar. Let's populate it. Let's put something in our request box. So we can see we have 56 hours remaining right now. If we want to ask for PTO, we can provide a message. I'll just say thanks. Sometimes maybe you want to give more reasoning, or you want to explain, or you just want to say thank you. I don't know. I wanted it to be an option that people could customize if they wanted to. Leave a little message. I'll ask for 8 hours. I want the full day. And I can see my PTO request pops right up on my calendar. I can see visually what I've asked for. And if I click on it, I can either edit it or I can delete it. Let's not, for the sake of time. But that's the whole process as an employee. You just submit a request, and then should your request be approved or denied, it will be reflected on your homepage here. So that is to say, you'll get an email in your inbox that says, the response. And then this little guy will turn either a green or a red, and it'll match the employee's calendar. So I'll show you in just a second what that looks like when we get to actually do some stuff as the manager. But for now, this is it. This is all I had to do to make a request. Great. Let's log out. And we'll log in as lovely Jane. Jane Doe has been a great manager to me. Super grateful for her time. Okay, great. This is Jane Doe's homepage. This is her manager page. It looks a little different, but mostly the same. You've got her inbox, and you've got her calendar, and as opposed to, who were we just now? John C. Calhoun? Jane Doe has got some activity because she has a number of employees and they all pertain to her job, so she has to know about them all. So we can see these are a different color, right? We can see this green one and this red one, and they're both muted. That's to indicate that green has been approved, red has been denied, and they're both dealt with and in the past, so they're pretty muted. They're pretty grayed out. But we have these other 3 requests which haven't been dealt with, so they're this bright blue color. And we do have these 3 emails in our inbox that say the name of the person, their message, and then the timestamp of their request. The date of their request is actually reflected on the calendar. The time is in the message. That way you can prioritize. If somebody asks for the same day and you can only give one person the time off, you know who to give. It's fair. So let's address Daniel first. Daniel Webster. He asked to go to a debate. That's not it. This one is the debate. So he had 8 hours. He asked for that first. Let's go ahead and approve. Turns green. We get this great approval message up there. I'm super clear on what just happened. If I update my inbox, I can see that I'm getting through my work. As you address concerns, they are deleted from your inbox. Automatic. I love the automation of just cleaning out an inbox. So that is supported with this app. Let's, before we do anything else here, actually, let's go and take a look at our staff. Because what I didn't show you on the front end of this was if you try to overdraft as an employee, you get that same kind of pop-up that we just saw, and it says insufficient PTO. And that's because the PTO is drafted at the top of the request. It's on submit that it does that calculation. That way, it is preemptive, but it's not possible to accidentally overdraft yourself. That is to say, as the manager, you never have to worry about whether or not you're giving this day or that day, because both days will have been accounted for in the PTO bank, or they will not have been able to be requested in the first place. So before we deny and see what happens when we have to give that PTO back, let's take a look at our staff. Remembering Daniel Webster and John C. Calhoun have pending requests. Okay, this is my favorite part of the app. I know it's just a table, but I love organization and I love a really nice clickable table. So I wanted as many things in this to be individual as possible, and these are all individual buttons as such. So you can manage this person on the level of their manager status. I can say, Amy, I'm sorry, it's not working out. We gotta demote you. I don't know if that happens, but Amy's been demoted, unfortunately. Say she moved. She no longer lives in Hawaii. I think that's HI. Yeah. She lives in Iowa now, so that's reflected there. If we need to change somebody's PTO hours manually, we can do that, and we can delete people if they leave the team. Say Amy just, wasn't so pleased with the team anymore, she decides to leave, Amy's gone. I'll reload that to get all the data right on the same lines, and voila. Now, if we want to check somebody's PTO, who are we looking at? It was Daniel Webster and John C. Calhoun, I believe. Yes, my pair of boys. Great. So 48 and 30. We'll try to remember those numbers for just a second. 48 and 30, because I'm going to deny these requests. Deny. And I get this option to either send my little boilerplate, your request has been denied, which I'll send to Daniel. Get that pop-up just to let me know what I did, to confirm it. And it's done. That'll be reflected in Daniel's calendar just like that. And he'll get his pop-up message over here of the message that I just sent him. So for Calhoun, let's write our own message and say, I'm sorry, we need you for the merger. Yes, submit. Great, I denied his request. I will update my page. I denied his request, right? There it goes. Sorry about that. Denied his request, I must not have clicked it correctly, and if I reload, the inbox is clear. Now, let's go back. I've already forgotten the numbers, but hopefully you remember them. I think it was 48 and 30, maybe. 30 would have been right, because he's been refunded 8 hours for sure. That's definitely correct. 48 plus 8 is 50. Yeah, so it must have been they both requested for 8 hours, and they've both been refunded those 8 hours that they were denied. So, they can't go on their debate tour, I guess, but they can at a later date. So that's settled, and this is my great table that I love so much. To add an employee, we deleted Amy. All we have to do is come in here and just input some data. I have some pre-filled fields. You can change them. I just thought these would be like time savers. And submit to change the settings. Now this is where it gets interesting for me. These are the tiers, T-I-E-R-S, of the employee's PTO ranks, right? So after 80, you get 80 hours of PTO after you've been at the company. Say they changed it and now it's after 30 days. After your first month, you can get access to your PTO. Well, I can change that. As the manager, I have access to modify the policy as it's reflected in this program. If I need to add a tier, all I have to do is I have to add. So I now get 175 hours after my first 550 days. I don't know, that seems generous, but I'm all for a generous PTO policy. So there you go. Super simple to interact with. It's pretty sleek, as it turns out, and I like just the visibility of what's to be dealt with. As a manager, I love that feature that the inbox is clear, my calendar is clear of those bright events, and I can see just at a glance who's on when. So let's take a look back now, because there's one more thing I want to share with you that I can't really demonstrate with the app because it's like temporal, it's time sensitive. So this app does account for yearly turnover and the effect that graduating into a different tier of tenure allows you for your PTO. So on the left-hand side there, calculate tenure, that is the function that's going to decide if you've been there a year, let's either roll over or not roll over your tenure, your PTO rather, as is appropriate to your state, to the policy of your state. Then after that, it's going to do this other function called calculate PTO, which is going to say, hey, how much tenure do you have? How much PTO should I give you? What tier are you in? And then it's going to award it. Super simple. Again, it's automated. Hopefully this is actually a working solution to some of the problems that my friend was, expressing to me. So that's the app. These were some of the challenges. Managing the databases was an initial challenge I faced. A junction table ended up being really central, and that was just, it was a slightly more complicated relationship than I had worked with in the past. But it worked out really well actually at the end of the day, and a combined serializer really was key in that I was able then to send back 2 serializers instead of as a list, as a single object, and then to access like both the user data and the request for PTO data in the same like map, for example, if you're like technical. Also, formatting data is always a challenge for me because every piece of technology needs its data formatted in a specific way to work. So the table that I showed you was based on an MUI, material UI component that was pre-made, but it had data as a constant, as like an immutable object, and I wanted to use it for this like living document that I could add to and edit, and even at the end of the day put my own components inside of the columns for. So it just took a minute and some documentation and deep breaths, as I've written there, to figure out how to match my needs to the pattern that the program required. Same thing with the, I think I mentioned I loved the fullcalendar.io API, only after I mastered it though. There was a day where I was like pulling my hair out because I couldn't match the data to the data like needs of the program. So documentation and deep breaths, there's always a solution if you just keep looking and keep breathing. That's my thought, at least. So I do have a wish list. I'm never going to be fun as an artist or as a teacher. You're never finished with anything. I guess it's probably the same with tech, in your heart at least. For my wish list, I would love to add a feature so that you could buy PTO as an employee. I heard that's something that my roommate's company does, where you can purchase additional PTO if you run out up to a certain like allowance based on your seniority and state. I'd love to accommodate that, just so that this could be like as real life as possible. I'd also like for you not to have to log in at all to know what your messages are going to be. The idea is to eventually have this be a home where you can access your PTO and see your calendar, but that you didn't have to log into it to get your messages. They would be automatically forwarded to your corporate email. So you would have your inbox there. I'd love to spice it up a little bit, the inbox, but also your messages would be sent to you in your email that you consume every day. So that way it would be more streamlined and more integrated with the day-to-day of the company and the employees. I also have some CSS dreams on the horizon. This is a mock-up I did in Procreate. I love playing with color, I love playing with layout, and like non-conventional shapes I think are more contemporary than maybe the layout that I ended up with within those 10 days. So I would love the chance to get to go back and kind of spice up the CSS, especially of the homepage, to make it more contemporary and modern and relevant. That's what I wanted to share though. I'm super grateful that you took the time to sit here with me. I have some contact information, a couple of websites, one for websites, coding and apps, one for art, and an email address. And then I have my sources because as an academic, it's been ingrained in me that you at least have to show a source. Even if it's these Zipio websites, show a source. So that's just my little academic trauma bleeding over, but I think it's a good habit. So thank you again so very much for taking the time to sit with me, and I hope you'll have a great rest of your day. Please reach out if you need anything or have any questions or thoughts. Thanks again.